Hey everybody, Roxabox90 here with our second discussion, analysis, speculation, etc. about the Planeswalker's Guide Part 2. So for those of you who missed the Planeswalker's discussion for the first Planeswalker's Guide or didn't read the first Planeswalker's Guide, the video is right on my channel, right at the top of my Magic the Gathering speculations. You guys can find it there and check it out. Today we're going to go over Part 2. And the main focus of the guide, it talks a lot about Mardu and Timur, which are both really nice, and you guys can read those on your own. Most of the stuff we already know just based on the card designs. Again, the set is more bottom-up than top-down, and so the mechanics are a lot more important. The flavor feeds from the mechanics, and so we know the mechanics, we know the style of the wedges, and so we know what the clans effectively are, but this goes into a little more detail for you. I'm just going to focus on how maybe some of the stuff in this guide will lead to the next year and a half of Magic the Gathering storytelling, story concepts, and discuss a little bit about that and my thoughts. The Mardu, we know pretty much what they're about. The one thing I'll mention from the Mardu is that Zurgo has beef with Sarkhan. I believe, at least it's implied he does, because he was there when Sarkhan became Planeswalker, and when he blew up the battlefield that he was on, Zurgo was there too, and while Zurgo was part of his clan, and Zurgo eventually was the hero and then eventually became the Khan, which he is now, he's not particularly happy with Sarkhan based on those events, and I'm wondering if he's going to interfere story-wise with Sarkhan's plans to manage time and figure out the dragon situation, especially because the Mardu were so efficient at killing dragons, one of the most effective clans at dealing with the dragons when they were around. So that'd be interesting to see. The Timur also have a very interesting political spectrum, which I like, because they have, internally within the ranks, they have a couple of people and entities that seem to be wanting to overthrow and deal with Surak, but that's not really based on the larger story. It doesn't really matter all that much. It's kind of just fun to read about, and you guys can read it on your own. The important thing to notice is that the one who whispers twice is a very powerful Timur shaman who is able, the one who currently is the one who whispers twice, his name is Chianul, I think. He not only hung out with Sarkhan Vol back in the day, but also he is able to feel the time rifts. He calls them another version of the nows. In other words, that there's multiple time shells that are happening and moving during the same period. Alternate universes, effectively. And because he has an ability of that and a connection with Sarkhan Vol, likely he's going to be a key player. Even if he's not a card in the set, he's probably going to be a key player in the block in helping Sarkhan Vol understand and connect with the knowledge of dragons and time travel. So he's an important figure to keep an eye out for, and I wonder, since he's supposed to be serving Surak, how that's gonna work in terms of story-wise. But regardless, not so important in and of itself, except that it relates to Sarkhan and potentially how Sarkhan's able to figure out how to deal with the dragons and time travel, besides for having, a multi-thousand-year-old spirit dragon in your head talking. Anyway, Planeswalker's discussion. This is particularly important because it gives us a sense of where the block is going as well as where the larger Magic story is going. We know with the change of block structure that it's going to impact how Magic tells its story. It means we're going to see characters more often. The stories are going to be much more complex and ever-moving instead of having to sit through 3 whole sets and then wait a while with the core set before anything new happens. Now it's going to be much faster. So we want to be able to understand where the characters are going. So Sarkhan Vol, you can read his brief backstory here. The point is that basically he loves dragons, and his connection with Dragonfire as a Planeswalker led him to Nicol Bolas, which led him to being driven mad, as well as Ugin popping into his head. 1,000-year-old dragon messing around with your brain probably could mess you up a little bit. But so he's trying to get away from Nicol Bolas, which implies that since he's one of Nicol Bolas's pawns, still is implied Nicol Bolas has some sort of hold on him. That could imply that Nicol Bolas is going to be coming back at some point in the block, both because of his connection with Sarkhan and also because of the fact that Nicol Bolas tends to be involved with these large multi-time things, as he was in Time Spiral. So, it does directly impact him probably in certain ways, and it'd be interesting to see if he ends up being involved or coming back in any which way. Sorin Markov has a very complex, interesting backstory. The important part is that he was one of the key players with the Eldrazi. And why is this important? Because I speculated already, I think Return to Zendikar is imminent to deal with the Eldrazi, because it sounds like they're getting out of hand, and that I think would be fall 2015. It just makes sense story-wise where the story is going. Sorin's trying to find Ugin, Sorin, and the Lethalmancer were the three who initially dealt with the Eldrazi thousands of years ago. But as we know, thank you Nissa Ravain for screwing everything up, and the Eldrazi are freed now and have the ability to go and wreak havoc on the universe. That could potentially want to make Nicol Bolas involved, because in Time Spiral, when the time travel things were messing around with the universe and would impact Nicol Bolas himself, he was willing to be involved, and likely he'll be involved in this same Eldrazi threat. It also affects him if it affects the whole universe. So it'd be interesting to see that. Sorin Markov really wants to deal with this problem, but he comes back and finds that Ugin is dead, which we knew story-wise, but this confirms, the article firmly confirms that Ugin was killed by Nicol Bolas about 1,000 years ago, and now Sorin can't rely on Ugin to help him out with the Eldrazi. This is bad. The Lethalmancer also is mentioned as being missing, which is weird, because who is the Lethalmancer? We don't know. All we know really is that he or she or it is a stone-shaping planeswalker, manipulating stone and effectively matter, and that's the whole point, is that the Lethalmancer was supposed to physically destroy the Eldrazi, while Ugin dealt with them spiritually, and Sorin weakened them enough that they could even be dealt with. That was the concept. But the Lethalmancer was effectively the one who locked them away because of the disaster that happened, and we would need the Lethalmancer back to deal with the Eldrazi. Who is the Lethalmancer? It's a good question. Nobody really seems to know. I mean, an initial guess I've read on some forums is that it's Karn, because Karn is the only planeswalker we know in the story, larger Magic story, who can time travel. And hypothetically, he's an artificer, so he is able to mess around with stone, maybe. But I don't really buy it. I mean, come on. We've had no implication that Karn would know anything about it. More likely, it's a new character, and that's why Wizard hasn't revealed anything about it, because they have the name, but they haven't designed or figured out who we're going to have this character to be. Likely, the Lethalmancer will be back to help with the Return to Zendikar, would be my thought. Also realize that Ramaz, who actually I do not have pulled up here, but you guys can check him out. I've already brought him up in other videos. Ramaz is a 3-color planeswalker who also seems to be Nicol Bolas' buddy, and since he's a Rug planeswalker, we'll probably see him in this block involved from the Timor side of things. But he's supposedly one of Nicol Bolas' pawns, so it could be another reason. We have 2 of Nicol Bolas' pawns involved in this plane. Could very well be another reason Nicol Bolas is going to show up. And I think Lethalmancer will need a little bit more information about it. I do not think it's Karn. I think it's a new character. We'll have to see who it is when they finally decide to reveal it. But I think the story arc is leading us to Zendikar. I think that will probably be fall 2015's story, is trying to go back to deal with the Eldrazi. Whether or not we find the Lethalmancer, whether or not Ugin's probably going to be somehow brought back to life, or somehow maybe is able to get into Sarkhan, maybe possess Sarkhan to some extent or another to help with them. Don't know. We'll have to see where it goes, but it sounds all really interesting, and I look forward to seeing where the story goes from here. So let me know your guys' thoughts about the article. Put those down below in the comment section, as well as any other thoughts you might have. If you enjoyed the video, tap the like button. If you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe for more speculation, discussion, and of course, spoilers. And as always, Roxabox and 90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.